Welcome to the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. Wulf Moon. He's been on the show before, and we like to have him on the show here because we've been following Wulf's career for some time now, and it was an easy one to predict his successes. And we last did an interview the first day he arrived in Hollywood for the Rise of Future Awards event. So we're going to pick up from there. So welcome, Wulf Moon.
Thank you, John. Pleasure to be here and to be able to talk to all the fans of Writers of the Future.
Great. So, like I said, a lot's happened since that first interview we did when you arrived in Hollywood. It's on the actual blog post of Here Be Dragons, where we've got both the video interview that Emily did with you and the podcast interview that we did. It's both on that blog that's on writersofthefuture.com. So just give us an update. What's happened since we last spoke?
Well, just before I came to the Writers of the Future workshop in Gala, that day I had a revision I had to do for a magazine called Deep Magic. They said they're interested in my story that I had submitted. They wanted a few changes. So before I left, I made sure I sent that back up to them. And so when I came home, the very first thing when I opened up my email, I had a sale. They had accepted my story. And so Deep Magic bought my story, Weep No More for the Willow. It's historical fantasy, and it's going to be in their fall edition. So that was nice to come back immediately to a sale.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and so it kept the wind in my sails. It wasn't over yet. And then I read the Writers of the Future book, and you do actually worry about that. So it's such a big event. It's like, how can I top this? Well, you just keep going with your career. That's you build up momentum.
Yeah.
So anyway, I read the Writers of the Future book, and there was a great article in there from Mike Resnick on tips for embryonic prose. And so he brought out that writers need to be marketing their reprints to foreign markets. And I had never thought of that before. A very insightful article, something I never thought about. And so I started thinking about that. And I'd been doing podcasts for a magazine called Future Science Fiction Digest. It's a pro magazine. They pay 10 cents for it. And I knew that they are backed by the Chinese Future Affairs Administration and translate many of their stories in Chinese, which is a huge market. So here's exactly what Mike Resnick was saying. Look for these foreign markets. So I pitched the editor. I knew they were doing a moon landing 50th anniversary of that issue. And I told him I have a story, Super-Duper Moongirl and the Amazing Moon Dawdler, and he loved it. And so he bought the reprint rights for it. And then he also hired me to do the podcast for it. So that was another sale. And then in February or so of this year, I won the Critters Reader's Choice Award for Best Science Fiction and Fantasy Story of 2018. And that was 2,000 people voted on that. And that was a story called War Dog that Third Flatiron Publishing had published. And I wrote the sequel to that. And I sent it to a different anthology, and I sold that sequel. That just happened a couple weeks ago. Then, aside from that, I've done several more podcasts. One's released today for a Hugo winner named Will McIntosh, and that's over at Future Science Fiction Digest, just released about an hour or two ago. And then Gallery of Curiosities continues to hire me to narrate podcasts for them. And then I also, in February, went to the Superstars writing seminar, and Don Moss, who had represented me once before, said, I pitched my novel to him. We had lunch together, and he said, send him anything I'm working on in any stage of development. And so I sent out a letter to him on the projects that I'm working on, so I was able to make contact with Don again. And also Steve Feldberg, who's the vice president of Audible Originals, I had pitched him my story, and he was very excited about it. And so I'm working on that novel now to be able to send that off to Steve Feldberg. So those are a few of the things that have happened, plus some wonderful signings I can talk about too at Barnes & Noble that you guys set up for me, which was great.
Absolutely. That was really, really good on that with the Barnes and Noble signings that you did. Now, on a few specific things I wanted to go over with you, because the purpose of this podcast, like I said, is to provide that, a little bit of insight for the aspiring writer and artist. And I've been tracking your career, just following as you've been posting, starting way back when you're posting your certificates as an honorable mention and finalist and whatnot. You're very aggressive as an author, in terms of continuing to pitch and put your brand out there. Can you tell me about that? Like, what's the significance of that? How do you see that plays a role in your development as an author?
Well, I think it's really important for people to get to know you. I would call it proactive, because I've seen some people's posts that are just buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. Well, nobody wants to read a Facebook account that's all they're saying. So you want to develop what's called a brand, and you want to get brand recognition. Well, as a writer, your brand is you. So you want people to like you, to know you, and if they like you and know you, and you say, hey, I just wrote this story and I'm really happy with it, it's about this, well, your friends are usually readers. That's who you hang out with, and they'll most likely go and buy that if they like you.
Yeah.
So it's really important to set up a social media account, and also a website where people can find out about you. And then that will lead them to wanting to actually buy what you create. So I highly suggest that for people. And I was loath to set up my social media because I know how time consuming it is. But after we got through some major life problems, a couple of years ago, I had a sale to a professional paying anthology. And I realized I now have to be a big boy. So suck it up, set up your social media, start sharing your life with people. It takes time. Yes, it's time consuming, but you need to do this so that people know you're there. And as they know you're there, things start happening. I had my next sale after that because an editor, I was just chatting with him online, and he said, what do you write? What have you written? And all of a sudden he's like, well, I'm doing this anthology and I would love to put one of your stories into it. So you need those connections, need to know you, they need to like you. So you really do need to be friends with people. And social media is a way that you can accomplish that with a wider audience. So
yeah, and one thing
that's
too
really important.
And another thing that's really important about that too, with the big publishing houses, actually any publishing house, if they're going to take on an unknown author, they're going to be able to hedge their bet and know that it's going to be something that's worth their investment. And if you can come to the table with, I've already got, 5,000, 10,000, 50,000 followers, it's going to be a lot easier for them to feel comfortable with taking you on and paying that advance, to move forward with, as you move up. So there's a little more significance too, because it's the paradigm has changed on what's being done right now to get that break into publishing. And it's such an important piece of the puzzle that you need to have filled.
That makes sense. And also, they can look really quickly at your social media and tell whether you're a person that will be easy to work with or problematic. So it's really important to always be positive, friendly, say nice things. Try to keep the political stuff out of there. This is the presentation of you as a writer and you as a good person. So you really want to focus on those things and establish your brand, which is what they're buying actually. First they're buying you, then they're buying your writing. So you don't ever want to work with jerks. You want to form a marriage with somebody that you really think you'll be able to have some good years with.
For sure. Wasn't it Dave Farland talked about at the workshop that, there's a lot of good talent out there. So if you're going to have a choice, what would you choose? Somebody that's nice to work with or someone who's a jerk?
Absolutely. That's always the case.
Yeah. So now you've worked a lot to go out and sell your book. You're very enthusiastic. Okay, I'll use that word. Very enthusiastic about selling your books at any opportunity you can muster. There's another author that I know was very much like that when he when I first started working with him, that was Kevin J. Anderson. He was one of the most hardworking authors I ever had met at that time, up to that point. At any convention, he'd go there and he'd be carrying his own books. He'd have under each arm, he'd have a box of his books. He'd go someplace to set up and sell his books. He doesn't do that anymore because he's now grown so much and he's now invited to conventions and they pay his old way. But at the time he was schlepping, he was doing everything he had to do to really get and make that contact with his fans.
Yeah, and Kevin's an excellent example of that. He worked his way up.
That's right.
And you really do have to keep leveling up, keep leveling up, keep leveling up. And a lot of that is just, I mean, it is self-promotion, but when you love what you do and other people love what you're doing, it's really not. It's just making friends and connecting with people. And when I was in sales, a big part of selling isn't selling, it's actually teaching. And it's helping people to know you have something good for them, something they'll enjoy. And every reader out there wants a good book. If you can provide them with a great story, they're going to get it.
Yeah.
That's what they're seeking. So you're actually the creator of something they need to help fulfill their lives, to entertain them, to lift them up. So why wouldn't we be excited and enthusiastic about what we're doing? It's like we have something good. We have visions that we can share with people that can lift them up and make them smile, make them think, make them cry, but make them feel better about humanity, So,
Mm-hmm.
so when I go to a signing, which I've had some wonderful signings, I was going to say this about the books. I probably sold 50 of the anthologies just on my own. I reordered the day we were leaving Writers of the Future. I had all 12 of my gift copies from you guys already sold.
Yeah.
Because I had told on social media, I'm numbering these 1 through 12. You can get pre-released author copies from me, 1 of 12, 2 of 12, 3 of 12. And every one I had sold out. And when I came home, I had to ship my entire box out. So at the end of Writers of the Future, I ordered another box. I sold through that with everybody else saying, can I get one of those? Can I get one of those? So immediately I sold 20 books, just shipping all of those out. And then I did readings. And at the reading, a whole bunch of books were sold and other people heard about it and wanted books. Wherever I went dancing, I say, hey, I won this contest. It's like winning the Oscars in science fiction and fantasy. And I'd show them a picture, show them the book, or hand them a card. And they'd get really excited. They realized this is a big deal. And they tell me that's a big deal.
Yeah,
and
it
they
is.
wanted to have me sign it to them. So it's just telling people, hey, something great happened to me. And I've been trying to win this for 25 years. And I go, congratulations, buddy. People are really happy for you. And they'll look at the pictures and they'll go, that is like winning an Oscar, So you guys do a great job of elevating this. And people recognize that it's important and that they want to be a part of it. So what's not to be excited about and happy about? It's just how you go about it. You don't want to shove things down people's throats. You just want to say, hey, a wonderful thing happened. And, at signings, you're there to say, hey, this happened to me and I've got the books here. And they go, oh, like I had a lady at the time I did Saturday. She goes, oh, I read science fiction. Show me your book, and she put it right on the spot. So it's just being friendly, asking people about their lives too. And, hey, I've got this here. Would you like me to sign it for you? Oh, sure. Let's get one. So it's not hard if you're proactive, friendly, and always thinking, hey, I got to tell you what's happened. So,
And that's how you're going to build up your own fan base. I mean, that's what it takes. You've got to just do the work, talk to people, just pounding the pavement. There's so many success stories using that formula that it's anybody that's looking at trying to find some other secret, take this, this particular pill and all of a sudden I'm going to be an overnight success. It just doesn't happen that way.
No, you've got to work. It doesn't. And that's one thing that can happen. You go to Writers of the Future and say, all right, my whole career is going to open up before me. And it's like, well, how did you get there? You did a bunch of work to get there.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't end then.
Yeah.
So you have great credit. Now you have to go use that credit to level up again. That's not the end. That's just the start, of a professional writing career.
That's right.
So you actually have to use that credit to try to leverage yourself up further along until one day, as you keep leveraging yourself up, you'll be a Kevin Anderson. You'll be an Orson Scott Card. You'll be David Farland. So, what you're doing is you're thinking progressively. You're always thinking, well, how can I tell people my story? How can I share my brand with people? Which is really, how can I tell you about me and how can you tell me about yourself? And together you lift one another up. So
that's right. Now, one thing,
the other thing.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, you want to keep sending your stories out, and you need good credits. You do have a wonderful one with Writers of the Future, of the best credit a new writer can have. So you do want to put that in your cover letters. And I'm getting to the point now, which is, after I said, 2 years ago, and it's in my other blogs and posts with you guys as to my goals and how I built up to this point. But you need to have good credits. It'll lift you right up out of the slush. Well, I'm at the point now where I'm throwing away what I used to think were good credits because I have these great pro sales now. So, and what you find is that you get really good responses back from the editors because they recognize, they can see you're up and coming. They can see this brand is rising. So anyway, I want to keep sending stories out and keep updating your social media, your website. I just did a bunch of updates to mine yesterday so that people see, this is exciting. This is growing. This person is going somewhere. But you do it. It's not bragging. It's just being proactive about your career and telling people, here's where I am. Here's what I'm doing now. Here's what happened now. And you make sure when people say like and wow, happy for you, you go over to their site and you tell them happy for you too. I love this post. You pay it back to everybody. And that really works. Everybody lifts, a rising tide lifts all boats. And that's kind of what it's like.
Yeah. You're just getting ready to start the workshop when we last spoke. So tell me about what you gained from the workshop.
Most important thing you gain is that you have all these pros flown in that are actually up above you, telling you how you get there. And that's vital. You, as a new writer, it's very hard to get that kind of time with those people because they're very busy, but they actually come to the workshop they're there to help you. The whole focus, that was the amazing thing, is that they aren't there to sell their stuff. They're actually there to help you, lift you up. And they're trying to tell you, here's what you need to do at this point, and here's eventually what you'll need to do to get where I'm at. So that was just vital. And I also liked at the workshop, our instructors were Orson Scott Card, Kevin J. Anderson, and Tim Powers. Tim Powers is a personal hero of mine. I write historical fantasy because I love On Stranger Tides, one of my favorite books.
Yeah.
And Tim Powers wrote it. And here they are teaching it for the week. But what I really found fascinating, and I love it that you guys did this, you gave us not just one instructor. We had 3 there. And then at the end of the week, as all the pros come in, we probably had 20 different instructors for an hour each, rotating, telling us all their secrets. So, that it's happening so fast. You're taking notes as quick as you can, referring back to them. But I love that they had different viewpoints. Our 3 instructors did. Often they would totally disagree as to here's what you needed to do. It was great.
It's hilarious. Yes.
And you go, this is the way you should do it. And the next one say, no, this is the way you should do it. And the other one say, no, this is how you should do it. And you listen to it and you kind of laughed inside because that's kind of how writing advice is. But then you realize there are many different paths to that horizon that you want to get to. And so you pick and choose what works for you. And you guys provide that ability for us. And then Dean Wesley Smith came in at the end when he flew in for the gala. And he had an totally polar opposite viewpoint on what to do in publishing because he's an indie publisher where the others were traditional mostly.
Yeah.
And so you got to can choose from a buffet is what it was like. And it was a beautiful buffet where all the chefs come in and they're saying, this is my best dish. And you go, okay, that one's good. I like that over here. I'll take a little of that. And you put it together and then you chart your own course. And that's what I was writing in that article that you asked me to do, Here Be Dragons, for the Writers of the Future blog. And really each writer has to chart their own course. You learn from others. You talk to experienced mariners. You hear about the pitfalls and perils. You try to stay away from the dragons that'll eat you, but they're going to try anyway. And you just keep heading towards that horizon. And each person has to cut their own course to get there. But you can learn a lot from when you bring in prose like that. Man, there's just so much knowledge there you can tap into. And even if you can't remember it all consciously, subconsciously, it's going to sit there with you and keep helping you.
Exactly. So for the aspiring writer, what's the value, from your own perspective, what's the value of Writers of the Future?
Writers of the Future gives you a goal, a target, just by entering every quarter, which is the goal everybody should set. Because you want to win that contest, it's going to help your career. But just by trying to meet a goal of entering a new story, a fresh story every quarter, you're going to write a lot more, and it's going to force you to write a lot more. You're going to have a destination that you can reach, and as you keep doing that, you'll develop skills of meeting deadlines, writing fresh stories, doing the edits that are necessary to make it clean and professional. And as you keep doing that, you're going to actually become a professional writer. That's what's going to happen. And I've watched it happen on the Writers of the Future forum. There are many people in there who become so professional entering the contest every quarter, they actually pro out before they can become one of the 12 winners. So it happens because people develop the skills not just to win the contest, they actually develop the skills necessary to become a professional writer. And the things you learn entering every quarter and setting goals and meeting deadlines are things that are absolutely necessary to become a professional writer. You have to write to become a professional writer. You have to write a lot to become a professional writer. And Writers of the Future teaches that, whether you actually become one of those 12 or not. That's your hope. That's what you want to happen. Fortunately, it happened for me, but I've seen others pro out, and that's great too. That was the whole point: is you sold to professional magazines and you launched a career. That's what you want to do, and hopefully you get to do it through Writers of the Future, because it's going to be the best credit and best experience you'll ever have as a writer. I firmly believe that.
Well, that's excellent. Yeah, that's one thing that L. Ron Hubbard, as a writer, when he used to write in the pulps, because he was writing about 100,000 words a month. And he had said, this is one time when he taught a class at Harvard, was, just throw away your first 100,000 words. And at that point, they became just, it totally violated their sense of what to do. So they were like they had a problem with that, because they were interested in, graduating their class of creative writing with their 5,000 words, maybe 10,000 words, and that was that. And he was saying, it takes like 1,000,000 words to really build up your voice. What's your voice as a writer? And he was amazing how he was able to do that. And of course, he created the contest to be able to pay that forward. And some of the first judges were his cohorts back in the 30s and 40s. Some of the first judges, and some of the names that have lent their name to the contest because of its value and its significance has really been amazing. Some of the biggest names in the genre, like Frank Herbert was, he was a judge at the get-go, and several others who see the importance of being able to pay it forward and wanting to do that. And the result is, people like yourself now. I easily can see Pat Rothfuss, when he won the contest in, I think it was volume 22, maybe. It was some years ago, with his Road to Levanshire, which is a chapter from his first novel. And that book is now sold out, because people want that short story, because they can't get it otherwise. And I'm looking forward to the day when volume 35 is sold out, because they want that copy of Moongirl, the Super-Duper.
Super-Duper Moongirl and
Yes,
Amazing Moon Dawdler.
yes. They're anxious to get that story, and that's the first place that was actually published, and wanting to get that as one of those very valuable must-have stories.
What's cool about that story that I've had almost every day people writing to me, posting on social media, looking up my email, going to my driftweave.com account and leaving me messages there that they read the story. They love the story. They read it to their kids, and I mean young kids that I didn't think this story would reach. And like one 7-year-old boy that the mom read the story to. I mean, that's all he's talked about all summer. She says is Moon Dawdler and Super-Duper Moongirl. It's all he can talk about. Another guy said, my daughter doesn't, she's about the same age as Dixie in the story. He said, my daughter doesn't read anything. And I told her, read this. And he said, she read it and she loved it. And I read it to my son, who's younger. I think he's around that 7-year-old age. And he said, all he does is play Doom games. And he said, within the first page, he was in rapt attention. And he said, even when I got to the end reading it to him, he said, I started choking up. I couldn't read it very well, the ending, because it grabbed him so much. Well, I'm getting comments after comments like that, so much so that people are saying, write the sequel. Well, I have started the next story, but I also, that was another thing I did, is I applied for a grant and said, this has won this contest, and I have so many people asking for sequels that I would like to, there's a grant for actually writing stories for disabled people. And so I've applied for that, and that would really help me to get all the things I need to make an anthology of Super-Duper Moongirl stories. So, and I've written part of the next story that follows it. So
Is that
anyway,
is that got a novel down the road on that one?
It'd be kind of like the Martian Chronicles. It looks like a novel when you read Ray Bradbury's Martian Chronicles, but they're actually each standalone stories, but they kind of link together. They kind of follow a timeline.
Yeah.
So
okay.
that's what I plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So
a
the
good
next
plan.
one actually will be Super-Duper Moongirl and the Prancing Pony. That's going to be the next story there. So.
Okay, good. So, anyway, any other particular tips you've got for the aspiring writer now that you've got their rapt attention listening to you? Or anything else you could say for the aspiring writer?
Join Writers of the Future Forum. I have basically it's my blog, The Win Writers of the Future, but it's actually about how to become a professional writer, write professional stories. And it's called Moon's Super Secrets, and you'll find it if you join the forum. We have other good things coming up, but that one Super Secret, Moon Super Secrets blog, the Super Secrets Challenge, I've got 32,000 views on that now, and I just started that, start of the year. So a lot of people are reading it, and they've said it's why they started it. That too they write to me about and say, I started writing again because of your Super Secrets topic. Or some of them actually became finalists in the contest reading the secrets, and then wrote to me and said, I did that because of your help. So that's been very rewarding. And it's, to me, crazy that you want to win this contest, but you don't join the forum where everybody trying to win the contest is sharing everything they know about it to win it. And a lot of the winners are in there. I've watched person after person since I've been a member move from getting certificates into becoming semifinalists into becoming finalists and winners. So there's no other place where so many winners come from than that Writers of the Future Forum. And people should join it. And if you're serious about winning the contest, why aren't you there? I mean, that's just, to me, it's like, you want to win. Here's everybody sharing everything they know on how to win. And so I really encourage people to enter that. So
good. And that's easy to join too, just by going to the writersofthefuture.com, clicking on the forum, you can join. It's so simple.
Yes. And then it's being persistent. Now, I'll share this from the workshop. This is from Rebecca Molesta, Kevin J. Anderson's wife. And she said, sheer writing talent won't determine your success. She said, there's lots of super good writers out there. But then she said, and I'm quoting her here, she said, persistence is probably the biggest determination of your success. Pounding your head against the wall until you knock a brick out. And then Kevin, I thought that was great. I loved that. But then Kevin, her husband, said after that, Kevin J. Anderson,
Yeah.
he said, how to be an overnight success in 20 years or less. He said, people are seen splashing onto the scene, but nobody realizes that they've been working at it for years.
That's right.
So, like, I know for you, when I set up my social media account and started posting each quarter, I got my Writers of the Future honorable mention or higher certificate. I post stacks of them in a row. And you saw that, and you befriended me on Facebook. And then I started getting different sales in different places, pro paying, but they weren't pro sales because I didn't have the 5,000 hits rule. So it's still good to enter the contest. And you made a post on there. I feel like I'm watching a professional writing career about to launch. And that was about 6 months before everything happened for me. But you saw it before it happened. And because you saw, I think, the persistence and the results I was getting because of my persistence. So you actually were at the point where you saw me about banging my head against the wall for so long, bricks were actually starting to pop out of the wall, and I was breaking through. And that was my breakthrough moment. So,
which was an awesome moment.
That's really what you have to do. You just keep doing. I mean, they say throw mud against the wall and see what sticks, but you just keep throwing your hardest punches until you break through. You just keep doing it. You have to.
Well, you definitely set a good example on that. So for people who want to find out more about you, how do they find you?
Well, let's see. On Facebook, I'm at wulf.moon.94. That's Wulf with a WULF. And then on my website, it's driftweave.com, and that's driftweave.com. And love to have people sign up for my blog posts there, or make a comment. Or if you go there, you'll see all the podcasts. I've got listings of my podcasts and what I've had published, so you can find out more about what I'm doing over there. And again, join the forum. Writers of the Future Forum will help anybody that's trying to win the contest, and anybody that wants to write professionally. You'll learn so much there.
That's awesome. Thank you so very much, Wulf. I'm very much looking forward to continue seeing your career as it goes, and obviously the sequel to your Moon Dawdler story, because it was such an amazing story. And I too had to get a tissue to get something out of my eye. Obviously, that got in there to get that tear that formed.
Well, good. That was my objective, to write a story that actually touched the heart. So
it absolutely did. Absolutely. And thank you all for listening to the Writers of the Future podcast. Again, this is a podcast that's been created to help the aspiring writer and artist to have their creative efforts seen and acknowledged, created by L. Ron Hubbard originally in 1983. It's the longest running science fiction contest that exists out there, and we're now up to year 36, and looking forward to many more years following that, and many more Wulf Moons headed our way yet. Thank you very much.